everybody, and welcome to the Maurice Brown Comedy Show on Bog Radio in association with 24 Flicks and also RadioQDX.com out of Lucama, North Carolina, and KCHF TV 11 in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Welcome to the Maurice Brown Comedy Show, everyone. Good morning. We have a very special guest on the show, an old friend of the Maurice Brown Show with us today, an actress born and raised, believe it or not, in Basel, Switzerland, and has been in numerous American films and has worked with actors like Jack Black, Sean Penn, and Leonardo DiCaprio. You can see her in her latest faith-based effort, Within the Walls, directed by a good friend, Andrew Jacob Brown, which will be available soon on Amazon Prime, and she'll tell us all about that film in just a moment or two. Please welcome to the show the very talented actress Debby Gerber. What's up, Debbie? How are you?
Oh, man, thank you so much for that incredible intro. I'm doing really, really well, so thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you on the show. We met at last year's International Christian Film Festival down in Orlando, Florida. Great film festival. It's kind of like the Christian Oscars. Founded by Marty G. Louis, who founded Bog Radio, where we're broadcasting now out of Orlando, Florida. Do you plan on going back this year for another visit?
Oh, absolutely. And I already got my ticket because I had truly such an incredible time at ICFF, and because of, the wonderful people I met there, including yourself and including Andrew. Honestly, I had such a blast, and it was such a wonderful experience that it wasn't even a question if I was going again. So definitely I already got my ticket, my flights and hotel. Everything is booked and ready to go. So I'm very excited.
It's a great event, and you meet some of the top faith-based actors and screenwriters and directors and comedians and all kind of talented folks down there in the industry. It's great. It's great weekend.
Absolutely. And highly recommend it for anybody, like, honestly, to go there. Even if you don't have a movie you're currently working on, or a single you're producing at the moment, even if you feel like, oh, I don't know if I should go, honestly, I do highly recommend it. It's just the people you meet there, you will, leave being fully inspired. So definitely would recommend.
Yeah. You've been very busy since we last spoke, and we're going to talk about one of the busy ventures that you've been a part of, and it's Within the Walls, directed by Andrew Jacob Brown, as you accurately stated. We all met each other down there last year, and it's amazing what great encounters, networking, interactions can spawn. And, my gosh, all of a sudden you pop up in this film. It's been nominated for several awards already. And I want to ask you about your beginning in acting, in fact, in a moment. But as I mentioned during the introduction, you're born in Switzerland, born and raised. Matter of fact, let's just talk about that, because I find it quite intriguing and interesting, your journey here, where you are the present time as an actress here in America. Tell us about the journey.
Well, their journey, it's been a 15-year journey. I was born and raised in Switzerland, in Basel, into a Christian family. My dad was a pastor for many years until he transitioned into social work. Now he's retired, but was born into a Christian family, so obviously grew up Christian. And I'm trying to keep it short because it is a long story. But growing up in Switzerland, you don't really ever consider doing film, movies, TV. Like, it's just something that is so far away for us, for us, it's like, especially as a woman, it's still kind of very old fashioned, where you're supposed to have a family and stay at home. And that just never really aligned with me and what I felt like was the purpose for my life. Still, I thought I was gonna really do social work because that's what my dad did, and that's what I've seen him do. And I think I have a natural talent for, I care about people, and I always want to help where I can. So I figured that was my journey. But as we know, God usually has a different plan for our lives, and often it's a better plan, like a plan I could have never dreamed for myself. Again, I never really thought of becoming an actor. That's just not something I ever considered. But it just so happened that I had an opportunity for going to America for 6 months before I started my studies to go to university for social work. I had a bit of a break there. So I took that time because I've always wanted to go to America. I never really knew why, but there was this passion inside of me that I wanted to go experience America. So I decided to go study English because I didn't know anybody there. I couldn't stay with anybody. So I needed to go to a school. So decided to go and study English for 4 months. And then I had 2 months left on my visa, which I was like deciding, what do I do? Do I travel? Do I take any more classes? So because my school ended up being in California, in Los Angeles, I was like, well, this is the capital of entertainment and people acting here.
Yeah.
And honestly, I was, and at times still am, I was a very, very shy person. And standing in front of people and performing was my biggest nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I thought, I'm going to challenge myself. It's like now or never. Take some classes, do some improv, do something you're afraid of, and then go home and go do your studies.
Yeah.
So I
Absolutely.
went to the Stella Adler Academy, signed up for 2 months. And within those 2 months, I had, teachers there. One of them was Tim McNeil, who really encouraged me to stay because he was like, in his words, he was like, you have something, like you got talent, like you should really consider continuing this. And long story short, they eventually offered me a scholarship for 2 years to finish the school and finish my studies, which I then obviously did. And then I just really kind of fell into this. So it's not something I had planned at all. And that's why I now, years later, I truly believe that was God's doing and just gently pushing me and guiding me.
Yeah.
And yeah, I started, really like learning by doing a lot of unpaid work, doing a lot of student films, independent films, indie short films. I did it all just to get experience and just to be working and build myself a resume and just really know what I'm doing.
Well,
So it's
yeah.
been 14 years. So yeah.
You have a great story, Debbie, and I think it speaks a lot to intestinal fortitude and just continuing to work hard and grind in this business, and eventually something good is going to happen. And
Yeah.
coming from another country, learning the language, and just grinding and grinding and grinding. I mean, you've got a great story. I mean, believe me, I think a lot of people need to hear about it. And coming from Switzerland now, do you guys speak French there? What's the language in Switzerland?
My native tongue is, we call it Swiss or Swiss German, but then I also speak High German, which is what the people in Germany speak, because our books are written in German, our movies from America are in German, not Swiss German. But my language is Swiss. And then we do speak French. You learn it in school. It's a necessity. You have to, because we do also speak French in Switzerland. So it's a part of the country.
Yeah.
And then English came last. I started learning English in school when I was about 15 years old.
Okay. Wow. Wow. Well, you and I'm sure you realized when you got to America that we speak low English, but but it's a great story that you have. I mean, my gosh, coming over here and just learn, and it's not just about learning the language; it's also learning the dialects. It's learning the slogans. It's learning, these, because America. I'll tell you right now. I mean, my wife's from Brazil, and she'll tell you we have so many idioms and just little. We switch the meaning of English words to mean something else. I mean, that's
Yeah.
how America
Yeah.
is. So you can learn the language and come here and be completely lost.
Yeah, and I noticed the various accents, and then some Americans like to mumble a little bit. So
Oh my goodness gracious! It's so
no
funny.
offense, but so for me, sometimes it was really hard to understand, and continue a conversation when I continuously had to be like, sorry, what? Excuse me,
Yeah.
I don't understand,
Yeah.
So you just kind of work yourself through it, and you just kind of, try your best.
Oh no, and again, hats off to you, Debbie. Great job on your part. I mean, getting the full scope. See, because once you step into a film, now we take it to another level. It's one thing to come to a new place, understand its ways, customs, culture, yada yada yada, and fit in. Then you taking it to another level, stepping into film, where you have to literally emulate whatever that character is you're playing, that American character is that you're playing. And what is that process like when playing a character that I would imagine you're fairly unfamiliar with from an American standpoint, but you got to nail this. You got to get this persona down. What's your process for that, Deb?
Well, funny, one thing was my accent was a problem in the beginning. I mean, even to this day, I mean, I'm never gonna fully get rid of my accent because I am who I am and I speak how I speak. I'm
Yeah,
always gonna get better,
yeah,
but it's that's how I speak. So it was about 5 years ago when I actually auditioned for my first faith-based film. It was by Ricky Borba, who's now a close friend of mine.
mhm,
And I drove all the way up to Sacramento to audition for him in person because I just had this feeling of, this is I'm gonna get this.
yeah,
So I auditioned for him. And then he basically told me, he was like, so it's another long story, but he basically had me audition for another part after my first audition. And it was to play the younger version of the lead actress. Lead actress
okay,
was like in her 60s or 70s, I believe. And then, of course, he was like, well, your accent. I mean, she is American. I need you to be able to nail an American accent. Like,
yeah,
can you do that? I was like, yes, I can.
mhm,
And then
mhm,
I took two different accent coaches and like really heavily worked on that dialogue and studied her, to make sure I get her mannerisms down and how she speaks. And I really, hopefully, gosh, I don't know if I did her justice, but I tried. So while in the beginning, being from Europe and having an accent was a problem, I think it's also living here, all my friends now here are Americans. I learned from them and studying my accent, like making sure I have like accent reduction classes. So I was just really trying to become more American,
yeah,
just to make it easier for myself to help myself connect with these characters who are
yeah.
from here, who are American.
Yeah, yeah. I mentioned in the open that you've worked with some pretty heavy hitters in one sense or another in film. Jack Black, Sean Penn, Leonardo DiCaprio. What was it like working with those gentlemen?
Well, with Jack Black, I will say I didn't personally work with him. He produced a series that I was a part of, and I was
Okay,
on that set for 2 days as a supporting character, but I didn't get to see him. He just wasn't on set that day or those 2 days. But that was a fantastic experience. It was a comedic web series that was really fun and made some waves back then. And then, yeah, I was able to work with a lot of fantastic actors and actresses. Also because I don't really do it anymore, but there was a phase where I did a lot of stand-in work and photo double work, and I tell that to my actor friends, especially if you're starting out. It's such a valuable and such an amazing experience. So through my stand-in work and being a photo double for another actress, I got to work very closely with A-list actors, like Amy
mhm,
Adams, like Jessica Chastain, Lady Gaga, Amy Poehler, and you
mhm.
just get to see and experience things that you otherwise wouldn't do. So I'm on set all day every day. I get to watch them closely, I get to talk to them and exchange and learn from them. So every like these experiences are just incredible, and I've learned such a tremendous amount. Even just getting to know these people as a person
Mhm.
rather than these big A-list people, seeing their hearts and seeing, hey, you know what? They're just like you and me. They happen to be known because of the work that they do, but they're just people and they're just
Yeah,
trying to get by and do a good job. And they have self-doubt, and they sometimes feel like they're not doing their best or giving their best. So that was a very humbling experience. And even with Leonardo DiCaprio, like on that set, I will say I was a background actor. And I have a lot of actor friends who look down on background work. And I'm like, you know
okay,
what? This is something you can learn from. You get to be on
100%.
set, you get to watch these incredible actors. And, it's like I feel like a little mouse on set where I get to see the behind the scenes stuff that other people don't get to see and experience. And it's been most of my experiences have been positive and amazing. And just, yeah, I wouldn't want to miss it.
I totally agree with you too, because it's like, and especially being young, you have to take advantage of those opportunities
Yeah.
to do background work, to be an extra, walk by in a scene, be in a crowd scene, load equipment and load up the truck and go to the next city type stuff. All of the menial jobs,
Yeah.
they add up down the road.
And
Uh,
you never know who you like. It's true. I mean, that's not why I do it, but you truly never know who you meet on those sets, especially if you're doing stand in work. I mean, like
yeah,
you're in front of camera. all day, every day, doing scenes. And a lot of times they will ask you to read the scene or act out the scenes, you know?
Yeah.
And that's how I ended up getting upgraded on a couple of shows where they gave me lines because they were like, well, she can handle it. She knows what she's doing. So let's
Yeah.
give her the line instead of going through casting, you know?
Yeah.
So not saying that that's the reason why I do it, and it's not a guarantee that will happen. But take the opportunity, you know, put yourself out there, be on those sets, learn, connect with people, talk to people, and you just never know where that might lead to. So, especially here in Hollywood, I will say it's a little easier because I live in Los Angeles. It's a little easier because we do have a lot of TV shows and films shooting here. So the chance is a little bit bigger for me to be, you know, fully working in entertainment. But yeah, I would always say if there's a chance, go for it and don't look down on it. You never, like, such an experience is something you know, you never know what's going to happen.
I mentioned the film Within the Walls, the faith-based film by Andrew Jacob Brown, who was on on this show about a month ago, and also Chris Kayalo also was in that. I always get his name wrong. Kayolo, I believe is his name, but a great guy. Great Chris. And actually, it's Caesar. I don't know why I call him Chris all the time. Caesar Kayolo. But he's a great guy. I love both those guys. You guys did Within the Walls. You've been nominated for by a lot of festivals for, you know, best film, supporting actresses, all those type of things. Film's been doing really well. And as I said, I got a chance to have Andrew and Caesar both on the show a couple of months ago. But it won multiple awards at the Christian Online Film Festival, including for you, Best Supporting Actress. Congratulations to you for that.
Thank you. And I have to say thanks to Andrew because, again, I did meet him at ICFF and Caesar as well. And the three of us, we just hit it off. And it's funny how back in May, you know, he was like, you know what, I want to work with you. And frankly, I've had a lot of people say that and nothing happens because it's just you know, life happens and things get in the way and whatnot. So it just doesn't happen always. But with him, 2 months later, we were on set shooting for Within the Walls. So it's kind of crazy how that happened. And he's just very ambitious and he has a very clear vision and he wants to do movies, you know, for God. And that doesn't mean that necessarily every single movie is like super faith-based in your face. But the message is there and it's gritty and I love that, you know. So when I read the script, it was something like I've never really read before. So I was very intrigued and obviously I wanted to work with him. And the experience shooting that was incredible. It was really fun working with him. His wife was the DP. She did an amazing job. Angie, she was incredible. So everybody that was involved in that production was, you know, having a heart for the Lord, but really just being wonderful, amazing, kind people that are incredibly talented. And if you bring all that together, usually you end up with a good result. So I think we have a movie that we can be really proud of, that's unique. And hopefully people can take something from it and be entertained. But yeah, it was a wonderful experience. Yeah.
Well, I want to play the trailer from the film, which is a great film that I cannot wait to see myself. We'll talk more about it, but I'm going to play the trailer for our audience here. This is Within the Walls.
Hey, we're gonna make it.
How do you know?
Because you never lost a fight.
Yeah. I'm not fighting anymore.
Yeah, you are. Just not with gloves on. Oh my gosh, what happened?
I was let go today.
There's 3 of us now, and we're counting on you.
You're looking at one of the saddest stories in UFC history. The man not only threw away his career, but managed to ruin everyone else's life in the process.
Say it again.
There's that temper.
That's 5 jobs in the past year. We still don't have health insurance.
Things won't be like this forever.
I'm doing the best that I can.
Mr. Martin would like to see you.
Dr. Charles Martin, what happened to your knuckles?
Sometimes the only thing that makes me feel better is putting my fist through a wall.
What if I could help you? These are not your average therapy sessions, Mr. Wells. I'll put you through a series of stress tests, and when you complete them, your life will change forever.
The cure to all my problems was found in the basement of a bar this entire time. Who knew?
Can you hear me?
So we were abducted?
I think I volunteered.
What?
Did you get that shiner?
I can't remember.
You hit your girl, did you?
What? No.
Lie to me again.
Please, I don't remember.
What's your idea of therapy? Want me to fight other people's problems? By making them solve riddles.
Pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before the fall.
You gotta fight back. We won't let you go. What more do you want? Played your stupid games. We need to trust each other. Right now. Not getting out of here. Of course.
That's an interesting film.
Right.
That is a very, very interesting departure
Yeah.
from what we might normally call a faith-based film, but it is a faith-based film.
Yeah.
And I just love the idea of how Andrew approaches
Yes.
issues. And when he was on the show, and I'd love for you to comment on this, but when he was on the show, I asked him if it had a spiritual correlation with warfare, spiritual warfare. And he said that's exactly what it is. But I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about the perspective you have about the film, Debbie.
Yeah. Well, again, I love the idea that it's not your typical faith-based movie.
Right.
And again, I don't even know if Andrew would call it a faith-based film. It's a psychological thriller with faith elements in it. Because again, it's not your typical faith-based movie. Like if you're watching it with your family, with your kids, maybe don't. I don't think it's for children. You know, it is a thriller. But that's why I think it's so incredible, because it's unique and it's not something I've seen and it's not something I've read before. That's why when I read the script, I was like, oh, this is super intriguing and I want to be part of this. So yeah, I love the story of it. I love how he created it and the passion he has for it and the message that he wants to get across to people with it. And one of those, I mean, I feel like there's a lot of messages in it, but one of them that I think is important is, you know, what does it take for a person to change? Because his character, Andrew, in the film, he is so set in his ways and he's so used to doing it his way that when he gets to a point of complete desperation and loss, that he loses focus and he loses why he's doing what he's doing and for who he's doing it, and he loses faith. And that's where Kira, his wife, comes in and reminding him, like, hey, where is your faith? We've always gotten through, no matter what comes at us, no matter how many hard times we've been through, and these two have been through hard times together, that she's always like, God has always gotten us through. Why do you doubt him now? Why are you not believing that even now that you're feeling lost and you feel like you can't provide for us and there's no way out, even now, more than ever, now you need to trust and believe that he will carry us through. So I think that's one of the important messages of, you know, don't lose faith, don't lose hope, especially when you're going through the valley, how important it is to keep your eyes up and trust in the word and that he has promised us that he's with us every day through everything, through the good and the bad. And another one is, what does it take for a person to change? And in the end, you know, we as people, we have free will. And Andrew, with this script, is playing with the idea, what if free will is kind of taken away from you and you are forced to face your fears and you're forced to deal with your problems? Because when we have issues and problems and we're going through the valley, we can make a choice. You know, do we deal with them or do we run away from it and just pretend like it's not there, and chances are it's not going to get any better? But we have to choose and we can make a choice. But in this film, his character is being forced to face his fears and his failures. And of course, in life, that's not necessarily going to happen, that you're going to be put in a bunker and you have to fight fellow patients, like physically fight them, to face your inner turmoil and your fears, you know. So that's why it's an interesting aspect. But I think he made it interesting and intriguing, and it does bring up some questions that you just can ask yourself, like, what would I do? How would I behave in a situation like this? What would I choose to do?
Well, Andrew made he made the analogy that he actually wishes that he could make a person face their issues, because many times people disregard them and don't take seriously the real issues they have, like anger and whatever the negative issues that people have that are a problem that causes an issue in a relationship, a marriage or a friendship or whatever. Having no regard about other people's feelings and just kind of running roughshod through life and never dealing with the problems. And Andrew was saying, I wish I could put people like that in a room.
Yeah.
However, the
Yeah.
reality, I believe spiritually, and this is where Andrew agreed with me and actually admitted that's kind of what he wanted seen in film. God actually puts us in those rooms. You know what I mean? If you
Mhm.
follow him, if you're the
Mhm.
type of person
Right.
that really loves the Lord, he's
Yeah.
going to put you in those rooms spiritually.
Right.
He's going to allow the enemy to come at you in ways that you don't prefer, and he's going to force you to deal with that.
Mhm.
And so the film kind of emulates spiritual warfare in a way. And
Mhm.
that's what I love about the idea.
Right.
You
Yeah.
sign up to follow the Lord,
Right.
great. You just guaranteed eternal life and salvation. You
Right.
also signed up for a war.
Yes. And I think even more so, the closer you are to God, the more you're going to face the enemy,
Yeah.
because the enemy obviously hates people who are close to God and spread the word and try to get more people to love God.
Yeah.
So we are definitely under attack all the time. And we have to be careful and be mindful. And even more so, never forget who we are and whose we are, and who we're following, and that he's with us. And if we are going through warfare, that he will be with us along the way, that he will help us get through it. But we're not going to have this perfect life because we're Christians now, we're safe now. It's like, oh, our life's going to be perfect and we're going to be great and everything is peachy and pink. And it's like, no, even more so. If you give your life to Christ, yes, you're saved, but you're going to face valleys, you're going to face the enemy, you're going to get attacked, and you have to be aware of that, and you have to be strong in your faith, and remember, yeah, why you do what you do.
Art imitates life.
Yes.
My wife and I were in church yesterday, and the pastor was talking about relationships and how a marriage will grow you into wholeness.
Mm,
Because when you get married to someone, there are things that you're going to have to deal with that go outside of the courting period. Now you get to know who this person really is.
right.
And then you get to find out who you really are. Forget about the other person. Then you find out who you are. Say,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I got some real issues here that I need to deal with. And in order to make that thing work, you have to deal with them.
Yeah.
That's where God puts you in those rooms.
Yeah.
If you're going to follow him, if you really want to be Christ-like, you have to go into those rooms. You have to deal with those inner demons.
And in the end, I mean, I feel like that's a promise. You're gonna come out of it stronger.
Yes,
Once you're
absolutely.
dealing with those things, because and that's actually our pastor yesterday talked about that too, how obstacles can enlighten us and be a fire in us, because a lot of people are afraid of obstacles and find ways around it. But
Yeah.
in reality, we got to go straight on it and face it and go through it, because once you did, chances are you learned something from it, and there's a positive ending to it, because you're a better person. You're getting to know yourself better. You're making probably better and wiser decisions next time. So I think we are being faced with those things. We got to go through it, and we're going to learn from it and grow from it.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking with actress Debbie Gerber on the Maurice Brown Comedy Show on Bog Radio in association with 24 Flicks, also Radio QDX out of Lucama, North Carolina. We were talking about Within the Walls, and that film got some awards, including on a Best Supporting Actress award for yourself. When and how can we see Within the Walls?
Soon. I don't know the date yet, but Andrew told me we did get distribution on Amazon, which is incredible. And also, again,
Awesome.
thanks to Andrew, he was able to make that
Love it.
happen. So it's gonna be streaming on there within the next 2 weeks. I don't know the exact date, but I will be posting about it when we know.
Great. And I want to get that out to our audience so they can be aware of it and see this film directed by director Andrew Jacob Brown. We were talking about the grittiness of the
Yeah.
film,
Yeah.
and which is the kind of grittiness I think, quite frankly and honestly, faith-based audiences need to see more often.
Yes.
And as I say that, I pose this question to you, Debbie. Do you think faith-based programming, whether film or TV series, needs to be more willing to deal with more cutting-edge issues?
Yes, 100%. I myself, as a viewer and as an audience member, I'm yearning for that too, to see more reality and more realness in faith-based film, because I think what I've seen a lot is, you know, the comedies, the romance, the romantic films, where everything is peachy and perfect and wonderful.
Yeah.
And I mean, there is a space for that. I'm not
Yeah,
saying
sure,
no,
100%.
don't do that. You know, there's these amazing Christmas movies and everything.
Mhm.
Like, there's a room for that.
Yeah.
But we're missing, and I think that's where it's really important to also you know, reach the non-believers, is we need to really dig deeper. We need to tell meaningful, real stories of, you know, non-believers, of people like, and believers who have fallen down and are trying to get up again, because in the end we're all sinners. We all do things and say things that are wrong and bad and whatnot, you know. And I feel like we need to reflect that in movies, because movies are such an amazing tool that we can reach such an incredibly wide audience. Why wouldn't we want to tell stories that, you know, are rooted in truth and in reality, of showing characters that are not pretty, that are not perfect, that are really, you know, sunken deep into depression, or fall into sin, that, you know, are sunken into drug addiction, or are thieves and are stealing and heartbreaking and murdering, like all these horrible, horrible things. In the end, that's life. It's what happens on this planet. And we need to show that. And we need to also show that these characters can grow, learn, find the Lord, and find redemption. That is a true and real thing. And that redemption and being saved is available to anybody and everybody, no matter what. And I think if we can give people that hope of, like, look where this character started and look where he or she is now, and that can be you, it can happen for you. I feel like, why wouldn't you want to do that? You know, so we definitely cannot be afraid and shy away from gritty and dark and sad and all those topics, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I had an opportunity to be in the film Love Different in 2016, directed by Anthony Hackett. And I had Anthony on the show, and we were talking about this very subject, and he had an interesting take, and you said something very similar, but he took it to the next level and said, I think that there should be a distinct space for the hunky-dory, peachy keen films that you could see on Pure Flix all day long, which there's nothing wrong with that. But there also needs to be another space within the faith-based realm where you can see some grittiness. Things that are a little bit tougher, issues that are a little bit harder, and the edges are, you know, kind of rough. Why? To the point you just accurately stated, because that's life.
Yeah.
And if you're going to get someone who's in the very midst of some of those issues, they need to be able to relate to something, that some kind of light that's willing to peer into their darkness and pull them out.
Yeah.
You know, so I like the way that you said it, and I do think there needs to be a space for that. I think there are more spaces developing, like Andrew, Nathan Leone, director Nathan Leone, who was at, I think he had a film at ICFF last year. I can't think of the name of it. I don't even know if you remember Nathan Leone, but that film.
The name sounds familiar, but I can't put a face to it right now.
It was very cutting edge. Matter of fact, I think it got the Audience Choice Award.
Nice. Okay.
At ICFF. Everyone preferred his film because he just got down to the nitty gritty of it all. I mean, that's what we need in faith-based filming, is to be able to go there. There's a show out there called Vindication on Pure Flix.
Yeah.
They're working on season 4. And it gets down to hard real life issues without ever really crossing a line of inappropriateness.
Yes.
You can do that. You don't have to cross that line.
Yes. Yeah. Now we don't have to go show everything, to be gory and gross. Like,
Right.
it's not about that. You can shoot around those things, and the audience is not stupid. The audience is gonna
Right.
get.
Right.
There's ways to shoot it masterfully and beautifully with getting the point across and reaching an audience. And I, again, very strongly believe in that. And I was trying to say in the beginning too, like, as an audience member, as a viewer of films, that is what I'm more attracted to too. Like, I just love thrillers and dramas, where characters are dealing with something and going through something, overcoming something, and you see their journey and you see how they grow, or how they get up and fail again, and they fall again, and then they get up and they try again. And it's just, that to me is way more interesting. Yes, once in a while I need a good comedy and a good romantic movie.
Yes.
But I'm just more attracted to more real movies that are based in truth and reality and life.
Exactly. There's a way to do that. And Hollywood loves to assume that we're really dumb. That they're just stupid. We have to show everything. No, you don't have to. Anyway, I kid, but the reality is there is a way to do that in the appropriate manner. Jared O'Flaherty of Vindication is a shining example of that, and many others like Nathan Leone and Andrew Jacob Brown and the Kendrick brothers, the Irwin brothers. There's so many of them out there. Matter of fact, the Irwin brothers, the Kendrick brothers have a film coming out over the summer called The Forge, starring Cameron Arnett, Priscilla Shire, who were in War Room. Matter of fact, Karen Abercrombie, who was in War Room, will also be in The Forge. Nice. Can't wait for that to come out. Talking about filmmaking on set, we were talking about how you came here from Switzerland and you weren't used to being in front of a lot of people. And, it's like, man, oh my gosh, you got to overcome this because I'm kind of shy. Clearly you did. But invariably for any actor, there's going to be butterflies at some point. Any performer, I'm a stand-up comedian. Right. I don't care how many times you've been on stage, you deal with it. Yeah. Everyone has a process. What is your way of dealing with butterflies on set before shooting a scene, Debbie?
I feel like that's something I will never really get rid of. And, and I think that, like you said, that is a part of our job. It also means when you're nervous and you have butterflies and you're feeling insecure, it also means you really care. You care about this performance in this film and you want to do a good job. So you're nervous because you're afraid you're going to fail. At least I feel like, oh gosh, I'm not going to be good enough. I'm going to mess up or whatever. So these fears are very real. I don't know if this will ever go away. Part of that is a reason that I actually don't do stage anymore, because my stage fright got really, really bad.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Very interesting.
Like, seriously, like again, my nature, like I do not like to get up in front of people and talk. It's just not in my nature. It's not like I can easily do 101, I'm good with that. But having an audience, I'm like, oh my goodness, I cannot handle it. I get so nervous that I'm just like, I want to run away. Like fight or flight, I'm like, I'm running.
Yeah.
But now in reality, I do have a passion for what I do. And I do strongly believe now that God has put me on this path, on this journey for a reason. And who am I to say no to that, even though I'm afraid, but I'm just like, okay, I'm going to keep going. And somehow he's giving me the grace to keep going. But what I feel like when it gets really bad, the only thing in the end I can really do is pray. Because I've tried many other things and just trying to distract myself, and trying to, obviously, like you try to speak positively to yourself and like, you've got this, you're prepared, you're ready, But in the reality, it doesn't really do that much because you're still nervous. So when I have scenes, for example, I can't run away from those when, you are presenting something in front of an audience. I had that last February on a set in Florida. And I was terrified of it. My scene partner loved it. He loves an audience and he loves performing in front of people. Me, on the other hand, I was a nervous wreck. But I just realized, like, okay, God, I cannot do this on my own. If you're not with me, I will fail because I'm so nervous.
Yes, ma'am, no doubt.
So I knew, it's like, I need you with me, and with your grace, I can get through this, and you're going to help me say these words, and it's going to come out right and the way it's supposed to, because otherwise I don't know how.
Absolutely.
And somehow that is what happens. And I might still be nervous, but I can focus then, I can focus and I can do my job. And then, of course, I'm glad when it's done. But in the moment, it's just a reality that I'm dealing with. Yeah, I definitely still have a lot of that. Not on every film, not on every scene. You know, there's a lot of film sets and scenes that I step into that I'm really not nervous. But if it's something like that, when I have to present something in front of a crowd, yeah, it's not easy.
Another real challenge I find intriguing in acting is being able to shed tears. I
Yeah.
was in Love Different, as I said, in 2016 with Jen Gotson Chandler,
Mhm.
and oh my gosh, I saw her she prayed herself up to tears with Anthony, and a scene that they prayed themselves to tears. I was like,
Wow.
whoa, mind blowing. Are you one of those people that can, pretty much shed tears with not much of a problem? Are you able to do it at all? What is your place in that area of acting?
I'll say when I started out, again, because I had no experience as an actor coming from Switzerland, when I went to my acting school, that was the one thing I was struggling with the most.
Yeah.
Because I just didn't understand. I didn't know how to do that. How do you access those emotions? And again, because I'm generally a more shy person, the last thing I wanted was for people to see me sad and to cry in front of people. That was very, very hard for me. And I remember even my teacher back then, he would literally put me up on stage and he was like, "You're not leaving the stage until you're crying."
Whoa.
Because he knew I was struggling with it. And I still couldn't. And I faked the crap out of it just to so he would let me go.
Yeah, let me out of here, dude.
I was like, "Oh God, I can't do it. So here you go. I'm just gonna do whatever I can." So
Yeah.
sometimes you fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
But over the years, obviously, I had to realize, like, man, I have a real issue there. Like, why is that? And I realized that I myself have a blockage there. That I just do not like to be emotional. Like be real and be grounded, but showing sadness, being sad in front of people and having like real emotions was really hard for me as a person. So I had to realize, like, really go on a journey and do a process of being okay with being vulnerable, that it's okay to not be okay and that it's okay to share because other people will connect with you so much better if you're allowing them to see who you are. And I think as an actor, every character we play, in the end, a piece of you is in every character because I'm going to play that character different than a Jessica or a Noemi.
Yeah.
So a piece of me is always in it. And if I'm afraid of showing me in that character, it's not like the audience is not going to relate. So I had to go on a journey on kind of like self-discovery of being able to connect deeply with those characters and then bringing that out and being vulnerable. And I think that for me, all these student films I've done over the years was the perfect training for me because that's where I was able to fail because student films don't necessarily go somewhere after. It's for the students to practice and work. So for me, I felt more safe on those sets. And I would challenge myself, can I take the space? Can I allow myself to be vulnerable in front of all these strangers and let them see how in that moment, yes, me as Debbie, but me as Debbie as this character is feeling. And I think over time, I was able to do that. I was able to, really be open to it and really connect with my deepest feelings and emotions and allow that to come out. And now, honestly, I feel like it's more easy than ever before. I would say I can cry on cue, although I hate that word because if you cry on cue, you're just crying. For me, there has to be a reason. It has to be rooted in truth. And as a performer, it's so incredibly important to me that everything I do is truthful. So even though when the script says, "Oh, and here the character is breaking down and crying," doesn't for me always necessarily mean that's what's going to happen.
Okay.
If I go to set and we're doing the scene and my gosh, you're feeling it and it's right and it's happening, amazing, beautiful. But if it's not happening, I'm a strong believer in don't push it because then when you push it, it's not going to be good. And an audience can always tell. It's like, "Ooh, that was cringy,"
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when I don't feel it, then I just allow myself to just be in that moment of feeling whatever then I'm feeling and let that be the reality of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I will say again, like, because I've been doing this for so many years now, that it is rather easy for me now to really connect with a character and really understand the circumstances and why she is at that point and what led her to this point. And, so usually it does work for me that I can get to a certain place. But again, sometimes you're just not feeling it because you're human.
Right.
And there's
Right.
a million things happening around you, and there's so many people, and you get distracted, and sometimes it's just not happening.
Yeah.
And then you have a director telling you, want to see tears, which is the worst direction you can get anyways. Because
Yeah.
then what happens is I close off. If
Mhm.
somebody comes to me and is like, okay, you need to cry, I'm like, yeah, it's not happening. Don't need it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
no.
I know. I listen, it's a huge challenge. I have a lot of respect for actors and actresses that can do that. And I mean, authentically and genuinely. I mean, you fool me. I mean, I'm a believer. And that right there is just like amazing. I just think it takes tremendous depth as an actor to do that. And I think when you're faking it or you're just, it's just that there's a difference between crying and then crying.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's like, whoa, that guy, that young
Oh, yeah.
lady is really in that
Yeah.
space. And so Mark Christopher Lawrence, who's a fellow comedian friend of mine and also an actor, one of the best at like totally enveloping an emotional scene. But that being said, I want to ask you this, Debbie, and you're talking about, all the things a lot of things, I'm sure there are way more things you could express as far as your experience in acting, but what is the big, of all of the 14 years you've been involved in acting, what is the biggest thing that you have learned through an experience, through talking with a mentor, through being a part of a certain film, or what, all kind of things? What's the biggest thing in your 14 years of acting that you've learned that's made you better?
That's a big question. It kind of does go back to what we actually just talked about. I think over the years, because it was difficult for me to be vulnerable and emotional in front of people, I had to learn that I'm allowed and I can take space and I can take room, and better than that, I have to. Because I always felt like, maybe that's just my personality, maybe because I'm from Switzerland, I always kind of felt like I'm a bother, or like I'm in the way of people. So I had to really take on this new reality of like, no, you matter, and you have a voice, and you're important, and you bring something to that production. Like, you're not worthy. Like, you just, like, I had to really tell myself that you deserve to be there. You did your work. You are allowed to take the space. So for example, when there is a dramatic scene, and I wasn't maybe ready for it, I wasn't in it or whatnot, I had to learn to speak up and demand space. And that doesn't mean like in a arrogant way or anything. It just means that, like, hey, for me to do this scene the way you want it, and for it to be real and as authentic as possible, I need space and I need time. And that means maybe 3-4 minutes, and I'm always like, well, if the people, like the crew, can take 30 minutes to set up lights, give me my 3 minutes before we call action, just so that everybody can be quiet. I need my moment, be that by myself or with my fellow actor, especially if it's like a personal scene in a dramatic scene. We just need that time on set where everybody is just quiet and we're focusing. And then what I like to do is tell them to start rolling. And then when we're ready, we're going to go. Instead of the whole, okay, action, because that just takes me out of the space again, So I learned to do that, like to really advocate for myself, to ask for space and ask for time when I need it. Always remain humble and kind. Doesn't mean when you're asking for something that it's going to come off demanding. It's just, no, I need this to work. So this is what I need. And I feel like that's what made me also a better actor, is because then when I have that time and that space, I feel like more safe on a set, and it really does allow me to be open and vulnerable. If I feel like everyone is rushing me and everyone is stressing out about time and whatnot, then I'm feeling rushed and crazy, and then I cannot perform as well. So I need to be grounded. You can ground yourself in the trailer or in the green room before, but if you walk on set and there's craziness happening and people yelling and whatever, it's going to be really hard to refocus and do your scene. So I will tell other actors, and that's what I learned, is, take the space that you need.
I can't think of a more qualified actress to answer my next question.
Oh.
And that is this: what kind of advice can you leave with young actors and actresses that are out there and they're thinking about making a career out of this business of acting, and this is it, this is what I want to do? What kind of advice can you leave with them?
Oh my goodness. Again, that should be a separate podcast because I'm like, there's so much
Yeah.
I would want to say.
Yeah.
One of those is probably to really make sure you have a good support system around you. Be that family, be that friends, whoever you're close with, like people that are on your team and that will support you because times will be tough. This is not an easy field to be working in. And especially if you're in Hollywood, like I don't only do faith-based film. I live in Los Angeles. I work in LA. I work in Hollywood. I work with a lot of not so kind people, you know? So for you to be able to get through all of that and not lose yourself in it, you know, and feel like you're a failure, surround yourself with good people who are advocating for you and who are supporting you and who know you. And if this is a dream you're having and that God gave you, that you don't give up, because it will happen. You will get to a point where you feel like, okay, maybe not, maybe I'm not meant to do this. And this is easier than this, you know, and then you have good people surrounding you like, hey, but you know what? You got this. You're great at this. Don't give up just yet. Next to other things, of course, like, you know, you're gonna have to invest in your career. It's a money thing. Like you have to see how you can be financially stable to get yourself through it, because there's no guaranteed work. You know, you're always gonna be looking for work. We're applying for work every day, basically. There's no guarantees. And another one would be to not take things personal, which is really hard to do. Again, now that I've been doing this for so many years, I've gotten really good at this of just letting go. And I know that is God that has worked within me of really realizing, hey, what is not meant for me is going to pass me by, but what is meant for me is going to happen. And you can you can trust in that. But if you're letting all these other people and all these rejections and no's take power over you, you're going to doubt yourself. You know, you're going to doubt your faith. You're going to doubt yourself as a person. So you got to really learn to understand these things are not personal. They're not against you. There's so much in this industry that we as actors cannot control. I have not booked so many roles because of things that I could not control, you know, that I know, like, oh, you know what? I did a really great job there. And I know that because I was told so, but the role went to someone's friend. So it's just literally like, there's nothing you can do about it, you know? So just to be easy on yourself, have patience, have grace, keep God in your focus and know why you're doing what you're doing. Have good people around, and see what you can do financially to sustain this career, because there's no guarantee. There is no, like, don't do it for rich and fame, because that's just, chances are this is not going to happen. If you're just truly love storytelling and you do it for the Lord and you do it for the right reasons, you're going to find fulfillment in that. And let that be enough, you know. Don't be misguided by the glitz and glam, because it ain't all that.
No, it's not. You have to decide whether or not this is something you love to do, because you can get in that headspace when you start out going, oh, I'm going to be great. I'm going to be in this great film. I'm going to make millions of dollars. I'm going to be famous. Same thing in stand-up comedy. You know, you start thinking these things, and then all of a sudden you realize, you know, it's a dime a dozen as far as who's going to make it. You know, it just didn't happen for everybody. And you can be super talented, and for whatever reason, you know, the chips didn't fall your way and you never did break through. It happens to a lot of people. So I love that advice. Just love what you do and give it everything you got. Talking with Debby Gerber on the Maurice Brown Comedy Show on Bog Radio. We're about to wrap things up here. What's next up on the horizon for Debby Gerber?
Well, as we said, Within the Walls is going to be on Amazon very soon, so I'm very excited about that. Then I did do a couple of proof of concepts last year. They were all faith-based, and one of those I'm really excited about. It's a kind of a passion project. It is a faith-based project, but it's 1600 in Scotland, and I can't say too much about it because we're so still in the process of it all, but it's something we're very excited about. I mean, you've probably seen some of it on my social media. It's called Good, the Examination of an Accused Witch. No, I do not play a witch, but I play a person who is accused of being a witch because she's a Christian. That's the short story. It's a really, really incredible story based in true events, and it's by the Garcia brothers, Xavier and Jonathan Garcia, and they're incredible filmmakers, and I love them dearly. And they're very ambitious, and what they're trying to do with this project is they're incorporating a new technology, a new 3D technology that they're calling Zen Immersion. So we will be talking about that more when the time is right, but that is a project I'm very excited about. And when it does get the full funding, which we think it will, we're planning on shooting the whole 6 series in Scotland. So that's something I'm incredibly excited about. But again, this is all still in the planning process. And then I have a premiere coming up in February for another film that I did last year called Those Who Inherit the Earth. It's going to premiere actually at the Grauman's Chinese Theater here in Hollywood, which is a pretty big deal for the little girl, you know?
Yeah.
And that's an incredible movie. I mean, it's hard to watch because it is about child abuse. So it's one of those, you know, it's not necessarily faith-based, but it's done by Christians. But it's a topic that people would usually shy away from. And we're going right at it and we're showing the reality of it. And I'm in it. So I know the story. I read the script, but now when I watched it for the first time, I was so shaken up. I was crying. I was sobbing. I was feeling angry, like all the things, you know. And if I can feel that and I'm part of it, you know, I can only imagine what an audience member can feel. So I'm very excited for that movie to come out. But and then NRB. So if anybody's going to be at NRB in Nashville, I'm going to be there. So feel free to come by and say hi.
Awesome stuff. Debbie Gerber on the Maurice Brown Comedy Show on Blog Radio. Actress Debbie Gerber. You can see her in Within the Walls, which should be coming out on Amazon Prime soon. We'll get you more information on that. But Debbie, thank you so much for stopping by and chatting with us. And I'll see you at ICFF this year. So hey, stay cool, and may the peace of Christ continue to be with you and your family. God bless you.
Oh, amen. Thank you so much for your time. I so appreciate you, and blessings to you.